Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam and this is a Himalayan sweetbox. This is a fragrant, white flowering, evergreen ground cover Himalayan sweetbox. I covered fragrant sweetbox in a video last year. I've actually got a few more of those that I'm going to put in my white garden, but it can get into 3-4 foot range. This Himalayan sweetbox is actually a ground cover. This is about as tall as it's going to get. It can end up getting 1.5 feet tall and 6, 7, 8 feet wide over time. Himalayan sweetbox can grow in zone 6 and down to zone 9. Himalayan sweetbox is not going to be in a big hurry to grow at all. It will sucker a little bit from the base over time and have pieces come up a little further away from the plant, which are pretty easy to cut off, but it's really not in that big of a hurry and it's not going to take over a space very quickly. The fact that Himalayan sweetbox is evergreen, low growing, and shade tolerant gives a lot of different uses. This thing would work fantastic on a north-facing foundation or east-facing foundation where you wouldn't get a lot of direct afternoon sun on it, where you want something that's low and green year-round. It's kind of difficult to find things on a foundation, on those two sides of a foundation that stays low. Most of the things that are shade evergreens like this are going to get some serious height on them over time. So this is a great choice for that. Also works great in a woodland garden or on the edge of a woodland garden where you want to keep something green and low, where a lot of times in woodland gardens, most all the leaves in the canopy fall off. So great use for that as well. It would also work well in a container in a shady space, on a shady porch or something like that. You'd want to give it some winter protection, not let it freeze completely solid in the winter. But it's slow enough growing, it could stay in that container for probably a couple years. So the primary features of Himalayan sweetbox are, number one, it's evergreen and it has this beautiful, nice dark green foliage. The main feature for most people would be these flowers right here. It's in January right now, so it's budded up. These flowers will open. They're little white bell-shaped flowers. They're very insignificant. They just kind of blend into the plant. You'll see them but barely, but you'll smell them from a mile away. These are very, very fragrant. It's a very, very nice fragrance, not overwhelming at all. This is a fantastic plant, and it's doing something very, very early spring, almost before anything else will wake up in your yard. These flowers will start to open up. So that's very, very nice. I have videos on my YouTube channel for planting woody trees and shrubs with some detailed instructions for doing so. This is a plant that will tolerate dry shade. Anytime I see that on a label, if I see it will tolerate dry shade, it usually means it will not take wet shade. It's one of those plants that may get root rot if it sits in water. The space I'm putting this in back here, I know stays wet between rains and watering, so I'm gonna leave this thing mounded up a couple inches and make sure I leave it high and dry. I'm gonna mix in some pine bark soil conditioner because I have some clay soils. If I had a sandier soil, I'd probably just pop it in the ground and not do much amending to it, just so I know it was drying out between rains. The first year your sweetbox is in the ground, you want to keep a close eye on watering it. When I plant it, I'm going to drown it, and then I'm going to let it become dry. The space I'm planting it in, I don't think I'm probably ever going to have to readdress it. It just, even in dry times, stays pretty moist in this space, so not something I'm going to need to worry about. If you're in an area that gets regular rainfall, once it's been in the ground for some period of time, I don't think you're going to have to do a lot of ongoing watering. Not a plant I'd put on an automatic irrigation system. I'd let it need water before you give it water. Sweetbox has a very nice dark green foliage, kind of all on its own if it's in an acid soil, which I have, without doing a lot of fertilizing to it. I will give it a small amount of slow release fertilizer in the late winter, probably right at the end of February or the beginning of March. This is a slow growing ground cover and it's not going to require a lot of pruning. If you want to do pruning on it, it's going to bloom here at the end of winter. So after it's finished blooming, maybe by the middle of March, you can go and do whatever pruning you need to do on it. The space I'm putting it in, it's going to try to come out into my lawn a little bit. I'm going to let it grow kind of left and right across the fence here, but I'm not going to allow it to come this way. So once a year, I'll just go along the grass and cut it off even. Won't be any big deal, but I wait till after it finishes flowering. I've never really seen many chewing insects on sweetbox. I have seen them get root rot. They're very susceptible to root rot. That's why I'm going to mound this thing up when I plant it in the space that it's going in to prevent that from happening. And like a lot of fragrant plants, not all fragrant plants, but like a lot of fragrant plants, it's very deer resistant. So what are you waiting for? I'm confident that you can grow this Himalayan sweetbox. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to follow along with future videos, and thank you very much for watching.